Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start the evening. We have people who are watching online, and we have to be prompt. Good evening. I'm Eyal Borer. I'm the Director of Education at Bethel. I appreciate everyone who is here in person tonight, and of course those who are online joining us. I don't know how many of you received the catalog, but if you haven't received it yet, the catalog has about 95 classes, different programs. Please tell your friends about it, and if you need an extra one, we'll be happy to provide you with a small contribution. Also, just two things that are happening here in the building is that we now started an Ulpan class where we have 6 classes, believe it or not, 6 classes with 6 professional teachers who teach Hebrew language to adults. Last night we had 6 classes here, and we are going to do it on a weekly basis throughout the winter and the spring. So if you are interested, see me or Ellen, and we'll help you to register if you're interested. And more even exciting thing is we're going to start here in the winter, late January, a class for Israeli dancing, Israeli folk dance. And I know that it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to do Israeli dancing. It's good for the heart, it's good for the soul, and we are going to advertise that starting in January. So, you know, we are doing everything here from the spirit to the soul, from the heart to the physical. Okay. I want to also make sure that you read the article in the Jewish Times this week about the adult education class. We got a nice coverage about the adult education. And if you don't have the copy, just subscribe on the Jewish Times and you'll get it. Okay? And I also want to thank the chairs of the Adult Education Committee. Marcia Bunshaft is here, and Dr. Neil Goldberg is here with us. And Marcia, why don't you take it from here and start the evening for us? Thank you, everyone. Please have a seat, everyone.
Good evening. I'm Marcia Bunshaft, co-chair of the Adult Education Committee for the Rabbi Mark G. Loeb Center for Lifelong Learning. Welcome to November 1st, Wednesday at Bethel Concert, sponsored by the First Wednesdays Concert and Cultural Fund. This fund allows us to bring these amazing events to you, our community, at no charge, plus a lovely dessert, which I hope you have all partaken of. We welcome donations and encourage you to contribute any amount that helps us provide these free events throughout the community. Consider the canister that's on the table next to the goodies, and we would appreciate anything you would donate. Before I introduce our wonderful program tonight, I wanted to mention to you that tomorrow night the Shinshanim will be doing a program here, and they will be doing it on poetry. They are the group of young adults from Israel who take the gap year and come to the States and further their education and our education. In addition, on Sunday, Lee Richmond will be interviewed with and by her grandson in the My Story programming. So please, we have lots of programs for you to get involved in. And we're especially happy to welcome Dr. John Lampkin II and friends. He is a jazz specialist. He's enamored of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s jazz quintets led by Art Blakey, Horace Silver, Miles Davis, and many others. His quintet specializes in presenting a repertoire of straight-ahead jazz and originals. John refers to his favorites as well as the many local musicians whom he selects to perform. Dr. Lampkin received the 2014 Jazz Heroes Award from the Jazz Journalism Association for having a significant impact on jazz music in the Baltimore community. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. John Lampkin. Dr. Lampkin, where are you? Oh, there they come. Okay. And he will introduce you to his friends who will provide a wonderful program for us. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate that kind welcome. So, rather than talk, I'm sure you didn't come to hear me talk. You came to hear us play. So we're going to get started with an original composition. I've been writing compositions about various clubs around town that we used to play that are no more, that are defunct at this point. And one of the ones that I wrote a song for was a club called Baker's, well, actually it was called The Closet. And it was run by Mr. Henry Baker. So the name of this song, this composition, is Baker's Closet. And what I tried to do with this composition was capture the spirit in the closet when we used to go and sit in and play at the closet. The closet was a small place, i.e. the name closet, and but the music was fierce. It was fierce. And so in that spirit, I hope you enjoy our rendition, Baker's Closet. See, so that's how the closet was. Every night. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, we got another one that I wrote for the great Sportsman's Lounge, which was actually Lenny Moore's place. You remember Lenny Moore, I'm sure. You folks from Baltimore, so you know about Lenny Moore and the Colts, okay? Right. And so he had a club, and it's gone, unfortunately. A wonderful place. It was called the Sportsman's Lounge, Lenny Moore's Sportsman's Lounge, okay? And the music was fierce up there as well, but it was a different kind of groove. It was an organ place, and a lot of places around town had organ combos, organ trios, organ quartets, okay? And so the Sportsman's Lounge was one of them. We don't have an organ. We got Bob Buda over there on piano. How about give him a big, big round of applause? All right? We've recorded this music, and I told Bob, I said, Bob, you're going to have to play organ. He said, oh, man, organ, I can't play organ. And so I let him off the hook, and we recorded it on piano. But it's the groove that I hope you enjoy that was happening at the Sportsman's Lounge. Thank you. We certainly appreciate that round of applause. Now, I see we got Andy over there, right? Wants to
Hey.
talk to us, all right? You got it.
Well, nostalgia is such a powerful emotion, a powerful tool, a powerful everything. And you're bringing a lot of it to bear here in your music. And I was just hoping that you could expand on it a little bit more. How do you bring the memory of a club that was, a night that was, into your instrument, into your music? No pressure.
He's getting heavy on us. Oh, my goodness. Go ahead. Would you repeat that, please?
I don't know if I can. Nostalgia, and you're bringing it to bear in your instrument, and it's beautiful. And I just was hoping you would talk a little bit more about the beauty that you're bringing to that moment, remembering that moment. Like, for instance, are you thinking about those nights while you're playing right now?
I'm just thinking about playing the right notes. You know, trying to make sure I get the right notes in place while I'm playing and playing the changes, you know, and making sure that I'm hitting the changes as they change. That's what I'm really thinking about when I'm actually playing, particularly when I'm soloing. And then when I'm playing with the ensemble, I'm thinking about phrasing. I'm thinking about Mike and I phrasing together. And so, you know, and then I'm also thinking about, well, where do I breathe? You know, do I breathe here, you know, at the end of this phrase, or do I try? And so then I try different places. And the last time we played it just now, it worked because I was able to breathe and then end the phrase, and we ended the phrase together. See, so I'll be thinking, I think that as I'm playing. Now, okay, the tune, okay, well, I was one of the guys who played at the Sportsman's Lounge many, many times. As a matter of fact, when I came to Baltimore, in 1971, and my wife and I, you know, we didn't know anybody in Baltimore at all, and so, you know, we went out looking for the jazz community. That's what we did. And I don't know who told me about Sportsman's Lounge, but somebody told me, said, go around the Sportsman's Lounge. It was a jam session every Saturday night, but there was music pretty much 4 nights a week. They would start on Thursday. There was a band on Thursday, band on Friday, band on Saturday, and the same band was on Sunday. So it was a band in there, and these were local bands. These weren't you know Keystone Corner bands. These were local bands, okay. And so there were a lot of local bands, a lot of local jazz bands, and so they would play in the Sportsman's Lounge regularly. And so I got a chance to meet the musicians. I got a chance to meet the players, and then I developed a band myself. And then not only was I making the jam session, which was Saturday afternoon, and that was fierce. I mean, by the time the jam session was over, it would be standing room only, because not only were there a lot of musicians who wanted to sit in and play, there were a lot of people who came out to hear the music, because the music spoke to a whole lot of people. See, I came from a tradition of jazz. When I grew up in Atlantic City, you know, as a youngster, I used to stand out on the corner because I couldn't go in the club. So I used to stand on the corner and listen to Jimmy Smith playing in the Wonder Garden. Now, I know all of you know who Jimmy Smith is, because all of you are the jazz musicians and jazz connoisseurs. I know that. So you know who Jimmy Smith. And in case you don't know, there might be one or two here who doesn't know, but Jimmy Smith was a great organ player, a wonderful organ player. And as a matter of fact, that's how I got into the music. My mother bought an album called The Sermon, and my mother was very religious, and so was my father. So I think when they saw The Sermon, he was standing there with his arms out and looked like he was preaching, she said, I'm going to get this for my son because it says The Sermon. So this is going to speak to him, okay? And it did, you know. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I turned it off. I'm sorry. So anyway, the music became a part of me and a part of what I wanted to do, and it became my purpose to share the music that I love with everybody else. So anyway, so I wrote this tune. You asked about the tune. See,
I'm into
you
it.
got me started. Okay.
I'm into
So I wrote this song because I loved going to the Sportsman's Lounge regularly. I took my son, and the first time my son ever played, you know, jazz was at the Sportsman's Lounge, and I let him sit in, or they let him sit in, and now he's a professional musician, And so it was that kind of camaraderie, it was that kind of love, it was that kind of spirit in the Sportsman's Lounge that I tried to capture with this song, okay? And it was like it's like a shuffle kind of thing, and that's what they were playing at the time, and it wasn't too fast. They would dance. You can dance to this, I don't know whether you all can do the bop or not, but that's what they would dance back in the day, right? And I think it's an offshoot of the foxtrot. I never learned how to do the foxtrot. I did hear Art Blakey talking about the foxtrot, and so I know about the foxtrot as a result, right? But that's what it was, and so I carry those memories, being in the Sportsman's Lounge on that stage, trying to play with some of the greatest musicians in Baltimore. Baltimore has some wonderful musicians. So I got on the stage with Mickey Fields and Johnny Polite and Charlie Covington, Bill Byrd, and all those guys, and they didn't know who I was, and so I had to step up and play. And that's what I did. And so when I decided to write this song, and Baker's Closet, that has another story, so I won't get into that story. But that's what I tried to do when I wrote this. I tried to capture what I felt, the feeling of the Sportsman's Lounge, and so that it could be preserved through the music as we play it. And so I'm really happy that you have enjoyed it.
I think you've done marvelously, and I look forward to some more tunes. And thank you, and that's it for me.
That's it. You don't have another question? Anybody else got it? Don't ask, because I'll start.
Do you have
You don't want me to start, right? Yeah. I spent 30 years as a professor down at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and I'd get up in the morning to my first class, and I would lecture. I would stand up and lecture, but the first class was the history of jazz in America. So you're talking about lecturing. We had a really good time. Yes, sir. No, I was being facetious when I asked for that, but go ahead. There were a lot of people. Chick Webb from Baltimore. There were a lot of people who came to Baltimore and played. Miles Davis came to Baltimore. Louis Armstrong came to Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore was a hub, and they came to a lot of the clubs on Pennsylvania Avenue. Sonny Stitt. Sonny Stitt came to, oh my goodness, I gotta tell you the story. Familiar, Sonny Stitt is an alto saxophone player, was an alto saxophone player. Wonderful player, and he's very intimidating. That's your word, very intimidating, okay, Bob? And so I was playing at the Sportsman's Lounge. This is a true story. So I'm playing at the Sportsman's Lounge, and with my band, right? And it might have been a jam session that I was hosting, because they would ask different musicians to host the jam session, and if you got it, then you would call the musicians, and then the musicians would come up and play, and people would come and sit in. So I think it was like a Saturday afternoon jam session that I was hosting. In walks Stitt, Sonny Stitt, right, and walks up to the bandstand and says, "Can I sit in?" I'm like, yes, you can, you know. And so he gets up on the bandstand. So he says, "What are we going to play?" Something like that. I said, "Well, what about 7 Steps to Heaven?" Now, I'm sure you're familiar with 7 Steps to Heaven. Miles recorded it. Miles didn't write it. Who wrote it? Talk to me. Bill Evans, or Gil Evans, one of them. I think it was Bill Evans actually wrote 7 Steps. But Miles made it popular and named the album that he recorded it on 7 Steps to Heaven. I said, "We're going to play 7 Steps." He said, "Well, I don't know it, but play it anyway." So I said, "Okay." And we played it, and he took the first solo, and nobody wanted a solo after that. Nobody wanted. But that was one of many musicians who came to Baltimore. And when I was in Baltimore, when I came, I found a lot of musicians. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about Jimmy Wells, And he used to he used to have a bass player friend of his. How about a big, big round of applause for our bass player, Michael Graham. Michael Graham. Yeah. You think I'm old. He's the oldest guy in the band, okay? Michael Graham. Okay. And there was Andy Rock was one of them. Andy Rock was, but there was another brother who worked at the post office. Phil, what was Phil's name? He worked at the post office. Bass player, Phil, right. What was, I can't think of his name anyway. But all these great players were in Baltimore at the time. You know what I mean? So man, why you start me talking? Go ahead. Yes, I know him very well. I played with Carl Grubbs. I've played with Carl Grubbs many times. Yep, the alto saxophone player. Him and his wife, Barbara Grubbs. So I tell you what we're gonna do. All right, okay. So you mentioned Barbara, and that's Carl's wife. My wife, unfortunately, has joined the Ancestors, and I wrote a little song for her. And so what I'd like to do is play it for you right now. It's called Eartha's Dance. It's a bossa nova, and if you want to get up and do a little bossa nova, you know, help yourself. All right. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. Okay, now see, it's what time is it? It's okay. It's 8:34. So now we could do one or two things. Now the last song has like a New Orleans kind of groove to it. Okay, but then there's a ballad that I wrote, and the ballad is really nice, and you might like the ballad. Okay, so tell me, do you want to hear the ballad? You want me to slow it down and do something that's really slow and very plaintive and soulful? Or do you want some New Orleans? So what do you want? Over here in soulful, over here in New Orleans. So you rather hear the New Orleans? All right now, okay, okay, all right. So I wrote this song. This is probably gonna be the last one. I wrote this song. It's called, now check this out. And here's the title, okay, for all of you psychologists in here. Here's the title. The title is All the Steps You Take While Walking Through Your Brain. Did you hear that? All the steps you take while walking through your brain. We hope you enjoy it. How about a big round of applause for these guys? Come on. Jason Lee, drums. Mike Graham, bass. Bob Bell, piano. Mike Ralston, tenor saxophone, soprano saxophone. Yours truly, I'm John Rankin. And this is the Favorites Jazz Quintet. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
That was fabulous. Thank you. Appreciate that. John Mankin and friends. We can't thank you enough. It's amazing that we're here at Bethel. It's amazing that we're here at Bethel hearing that quality of jazz. I am just blown away. And personally, I'm glad I got outvoted on that last piece because that was fabulous. I also want to thank the donors that make this possible, and Dr. Bohr and Ellen Marks who arrange everything. Yeah, you're not kidding, Yay. I mean, it's amazing. Please tell other community members how great First Wednesdays are so that when we have first-rate musicians, we don't have empty chairs, because it's a shame that more of the community didn't get to hear that kind of quality of music. And I'd love to know where you're playing next. And speaking of next, the next Wednesday is on Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th, and it is going to be very interesting. It is notes and chords performed by BSO violinist Audrey Wright and internationally known musician and composer Woody Leisauer. And there's going to be a unique audiovisual piece to this where we're going to see the paintings painted by John Viles that inspired Woody Leisauer to create one of the pieces that will be performed. So one of the questions Andy asked was, where does your inspiration come from? How do you put it together? Well, it sounds like we're going to actually organically see that next time. So from an artistic point of view, that should be fabulous. I want to remind you, Marsha Boonshaft mentioned that the Shinshanim are going to be performing tomorrow night in the Offutt Library, Agus Library, sorry, at 7 o'clock. And for you, those of you that don't know, the Shinshanim are students that are between high school and military service, and they come to do service in the U.S. for a year. And tomorrow evening is going to be one of 3 poetry pieces that should be really fascinating, and I hope many of you can come for that. Thank you all very much for being here, and thanks for the people that joined us on Facebook Live.